Money is being created right now, and no one asked you. Not Congress, not voters, not workers. Inside secured facilities in Washington, D.C., machines run non-stop, converting blank paper into U.S. dollars at industrial speed, hundreds of millions every single day. That spectacle exists for one reason: distraction. Because the real money is not printed. It is typed. More than $4 billion a day appears inside computers as ledger entries, created by institutions you will never vote for and never meet. This money moves instantly through banks, markets, government budgets, corporate balance sheets, mortgages, credit cards, and student loans before it ever reaches your paycheck, if it reaches you at all. And when it finally does, it arrives damaged. Prices are higher, debt is heavier, competition is harsher, time feels tighter. This is not a story about greedy individuals or secret conspiracies. That explanation is comforting and wrong. What you are living inside is a system that manufactures money through debt, rewards speed over stability, and expands whether you consent or not. It does not hate you. It does not care about you. It only needs participation. And participation is mandatory. There is no exit, no pause, no opt-out. Most people imagine money as something solid: cash, coins, vaults, weight. But nearly all modern money has no physical form at all. It exists as records, entries, permissions, numbers moving between databases at the speed of light. When your paycheck arrives, nothing is delivered. A balance is updated. When you swipe a card, nothing leaves your hand. A promise changes ownership. Over 90% of US dollars will never be printed, never touched, never seen. They live and die entirely inside systems built to be invisible. That invisibility is not accidental. If money felt real, creation would feel dangerous. But digits feel harmless, abstract, temporary. And that illusion allows the system to scale beyond intuition. Trillions can appear without crowds, trucks, or alarms. No smoke, no noise, just quiet expansion. This is why control no longer looks like force. It looks like accounting. Whoever controls the ledger controls reality. Who can buy, who must borrow, who falls behind. You are not competing for resources anymore. You are competing inside a scoreboard that can be rewritten instantly without you watching helplessly. Before money existed, debt already controlled survival. Long before banks or laws, every exchange was a gamble built on memory. A farmer took a tool knowing repayment might come weeks later, or not at all. If he failed, he wasn't fined. He was cut off. No trade, no help, no future. Debt was personal, visible, and unforgiving. Everyone watched. Everyone remembered. As communities grew, that fragile system began to crack. Promises overlapped. Memories conflicted. One unpaid obligation could trigger retaliation, feuds, even violence. Debt didn't vanish when trust failed. It metastasized. Power shifted toward those who could enforce repayment with force rather than reputation. Money was invented to stop this collapse, not to enrich people, but to restrain chaos. Coins and tallies turned moral obligations into measurable units. They allowed debt to be tracked, transferred, and enforced without constant conflict. But something else happened. Once debt could be counted, it could be separated from the people who created it. Obligations became objects. Objects became tradable. And the moment debt stopped belonging to individuals, it became something larger, colder, and far more dangerous. That transformation quietly rewired societies, economies, and power, setting the stage for every financial system that followed afterward. Trust worked only while everyone knew each other. Once trade expanded beyond neighbors and relatives, trust alone collapsed under its own weight. Strangers did not care about your reputation. They wanted proof. That pressure forced societies to search for something solid, something everyone could recognize without conversation. Grain, salt, livestock. These became temporary stand-ins for trust because they were scarce, useful, and difficult to fake. Value finally had a body. Transactions became faster, cleaner, less personal, but this efficiency came at a cost. When value is locked into objects, exchange stops being human and starts becoming mechanical. Trade no longer depended on who you were, only on what you carried. This shift accelerated growth. but it also began stripping morality out of exchange. Obligation turned into calculation. Survival turned into arithmetic. What mattered was no longer whether you were trusted, but whether you possessed enough units. This was progress, but it was also the first step toward something colder. Once value could be standardized, it could be controlled, accumulated, and eventually separated from the real labor and suffering that created it. Gold felt like the final answer. It was rare, durable, impossible to fake, and universally desired. Unlike grain, it didn't rot. Unlike livestock, it didn't die. Gold compressed enormous value into something small enough to carry in a pocket, and for a moment in history, it created order. Trade expanded across continents. Empires trusted the weight of metal more than the word of men. But gold carried a flaw that only revealed itself at scale. It had to move. And moving gold meant risk. It had to be guarded, transported, hidden, and defended. Caravans were robbed. Ships sank. Fortunes vanished overnight. The more trade grew, the more dangerous gold became. Wealth attracted violence like gravity. Eventually, gold stopped feeling like security and started feeling like a liability. Whoever held it became a target. This pressure quietly reshaped the economy. People didn't want gold near them anymore. They wanted safety. They wanted someone else to hold the risk. That desire created an opening far more important than gold itself. Once society agreed that value could be stored somewhere else, guarded by someone else, money stopped being about possession and started becoming about trust again. And this time, the trust was centralized. The solution arrived quietly without speeches or revolutions. Goldsmiths began offering safety. "Hand over your gold," they said, "and we'll lock it away behind stone walls and iron doors." In return, you received paper, a receipt, a promise, a claim. At first, the paper meant nothing on its own. Its power came from what it represented. Real gold, sitting somewhere you couldn't see but trusted existed. Then something subtle changed. People stopped asking for the gold back. The paper was easier, lighter, safer. It could cross cities without guards, cross borders without blood. Soon, the paper wasn't just a receipt. It became money. And that's when the quiet crime began. Goldsmiths noticed the vaults stayed full. The gold rarely moved. So they issued more paper than gold they actually held. Not theft, not fraud, just confidence. As long as no one panicked, no one noticed. A loan no longer required gold to leave the vault. It required ink and belief. Money was created without mining, without labor, without limit. Value multiplied without substance. And the moment society accepted paper as equal to metal, money severed its last physical anchor. What followed wasn't collapse. It was something far more dangerous. It worked. Once money detached from metal, it stopped obeying physical limits. There was no longer a ceiling set by minds or labor. There was only confidence, and confidence scales fast. Paper claims began circulating far beyond the gold that supposedly backed them. Yet, nothing collapsed. Markets adapted. Trade accelerated. Prosperity appeared to grow. This success disguised the danger. When money represents belief rather than substance, the system survives not by truth, but by continuity. As long as tomorrow looks like today, no one asks questions. This was the moment money became a living system. It could expand, contract, and correct itself without ever touching reality. Wealth increased on paper while scarcity remained unchanged. Power shifted toward those who controlled issuance, not production. The economy no longer reflected what societies made, but what institutions recorded. And because the system worked, it spread. Governments adopted it. Banks formalized it. Laws protected it. Money had escaped gravity, and nothing that escapes gravity ever comes back down gently. The illusion felt stable, until the consequences arrived silently, unevenly, and always later for everyone involved eventually. Modern banking perfected the old trick and made it invisible. When you deposit money, the bank does not store it for you. It records a debt. The balance on your screen is a promise, not a pile of cash waiting in a vault. When the bank approves a loan, it does not move existing money from somewhere else. It creates new money with a keystroke, credits your account, and calls it reality. Nothing is taken from anyone. Nothing is transferred. Money appears because debt appears. That loan buys a car, pays a contractor, hires employees, and spreads through the economy as if it had always existed. Then the reversal comes. As the loan is repaid, the money is erased, deleted, canceled. Only the interest survives, extracted permanently from real labor and real time. This is the engine: creation on the way in, destruction on the way out. Growth requires new debt, and stability requires faith that debt will continue forever. The system does not run on cash. It runs on belief enforced by law, and consequences arrive later, quietly, inevitably. Debt is not a side effect of the system. It is the fuel. Without constant borrowing, money stops expanding, transactions slow, businesses stall, and unemployment follows. Growth demands fresh dollars, and fresh dollars only arrive attached to new obligations. Every mortgage, every student loan, every credit card balance is not a personal failure, but a structural requirement. The system needs people to owe, because owing keeps money moving. When debt pauses, panic begins. Banks tighten. Markets seize. Governments intervene. So debt is encouraged, normalized, celebrated as opportunity. But debt changes behavior. It pulls future labor into the present and spends it before it exists. It rewards speed over patience, leverage over restraint. Those who borrow early gain access. Those who hesitate fall behind. Over time, the economy divides into two groups: those who can safely carry debt and those crushed by it. The system does not break when people struggle. It adapts. It shifts risk downward. And as long as debt continues to grow, the machine keeps running, regardless of who it leaves behind, and never slows down for anyone. Inflation is not an accident or a mystery. It is the shadow cast when money grows faster than reality. If more dollars compete for the same houses, food, fuel, and labor, prices do not rise because sellers are cruel. They rise because the system demands balance. Creation outpaces production and value thins. This is why paychecks can increase while life feels smaller. The numbers go up, but purchasing power leaks away quietly, year after year. Inflation punishes saving and rewards speed. Holding cash becomes risky. Debt becomes strategic. Those closest to new money spend before prices adjust, while everyone else pays later. This delay is where the damage hides. By the time inflation is visible, the transfer has already happened. Wealth has shifted without a vote, without a law, without a headline. And because inflation moves slowly, it feels natural, inevitable, almost boring. That is its greatest strength. It turns systemic imbalance into personal stress, convincing people the problem is budgeting, not structure. Inflation is not the disease. It is the symptom of a system forcing tomorrow to fund today. At the highest level, the system scales up and becomes invisible again. Governments borrow not with desperation, but with routine. Bonds are issued, promises made to future taxpayers who never consented. Spending today is justified by growth tomorrow, even when tomorrow never quite arrives. Debt rolls forward, renewed, expanded, normalized. It is no longer a crisis. It is policy. The numbers grow so large they lose meaning, but the obligation remains real. Interest must be paid. Confidence must be maintained. And as long as the system holds, the bill is delayed, not erased. None of this requires villains. The system works exactly as designed, guided by incentives rather than intent. Money is created, directed, and rewarded based on what expands fastest, not what lasts longest. When capital chases speculation, bubbles form. When it ignores education and infrastructure, decay spreads quietly. The danger is not creation itself, but direction. A dollar sent toward short-term extraction behaves differently than one invested in long-term productivity. Yet the system does not ask what should grow. It only responds to pressure and profit. This is why collapse rarely arrives suddenly. It arrives as erosion, a slow thinning of trust, stability, and opportunity, until dysfunction feels normal and exhaustion feels personal. Design alone can quietly devastate societies over time. This is not a call to panic, and it's not a call to rebel. It's a warning about comfort. Systems like this don't survive because people agree with them. They survive because people adapt to them. Slowly, quietly, one payment at a time. When money is created through debt, when inflation erodes without headlines, when responsibility is pushed forward into the future, the greatest risk isn't collapse. It's normalization. A society can function for a very long time while becoming less fair, less stable, and more exhausting for the people inside it. And because it happens gradually, it feels personal, like you're falling behind, like you should be working harder, saving better, choosing smarter. But many of these pressures were engineered long before you made a single decision. Understanding that doesn't solve the problem, but it changes how you carry it. It reminds you that financial stress is often structural, not moral. That clarity matters, because systems only remain invisible when people stop asking how they work. If this video helped you see something you hadn't seen before, share it with someone who should. Like it so more people can find it. And subscribe if you want more stories about the hidden systems shaping history, power, and everyday life.